Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Pick Six, the podcast by the Attractions Group. I'm Ryan Sir, along with Don Helbig. This is the podcast where we bring you the latest news and information from the theme park and attractions industry.
Now
it's okay. My intro sucked. So, hello, alongside Don Helbig, I'm Ryan Sir, and welcome to the Pick Six, the podcast by the Attractions Group, where we bring you the latest top stories from the attraction and amusement industry.
Now, before we delve into this week's Pick Six, if you're listening for the first time, here's where you can tune into the Attractions Group podcast. You can catch us on your favorite podcast apps, like us on Facebook, follow us on X, and be sure to subscribe to us on YouTube. Ryan, let's get us started.
Yeah, let's go with story number one. So a ride called Minifigure Skyflyer will debut June 24th at Legoland, New York in Goshen. This new attraction will have 7 themed gondola-inspired pods with disco music. The ride also serves as a fun way to explore and traverse from attraction to attraction in the large theme park. That's kind of a new theme park, too. I think it opened within the last 5 years or so.
Yeah, relatively new. I'm going to be in New York the beginning of August, and I was pondering visiting this park, obviously because I've never been there before, but this is kind of cool. I like it.
Yeah, I like it too. Now, Goshen, I believe, is not very close to New York City. That's hours away, but
yeah, it would be a way to go, but I could get there.
You can make it. There's a car or something that'll take you there. Okay.
That's right.
Next up, where are we heading?
We are headed to Sandusky, Ohio, as Cedar Point enthusiasts eagerly await the reopening of Top Thrill 2. A brand new attraction has arrived for the 2024 season, the Prize Flyer Human Claw Experience. Now, if you've ever dreamed of being inside the claw machine at an arcade, well, here's your chance. The innovative game transforms guests into the claw of a giant arcade game. Participants are lowered into a bin of prizes, grabbing as many as they can before choosing one to keep.
Okay, so I was wondering about that because I had seen this before, but I like somebody that's my size could probably grab most of the prizes in there. But I guess you kind of just aim for what you want and then you choose one to actually walk away with, which that's pretty cool. I mean,
it is. It's $20 to do it, but it's a different way to experience Cedar Point, I guess. From what I understand, it's been garnering a lot of attention. A lot of guests are watching and are entertained by it. So even if you don't do it, you're still entertained by watching somebody try to grab something and pull it out. Now there's some guests that they don't get anything and it slips out of their hands as they're being raised up, and that just like the claw machine would do in an arcade.
Yeah, but a claw machine in arcade's almost guaranteed to drop what you're aiming for unless it's a winner every time situation. This one, like if you've got full dexterity in your arms, you're walking away with the prize.
You are. Now, this will not be the only Cedar Fair park that gets this, as it, has popularity here at Cedar Point. You'll see this popping up at other parks as well, I believe.
What kind of life cycle do you think this thing will have? Do you think it'll be something that's going to be attractive for decades, or do you think they'll get a few years out of it? Or what are your thoughts? Like, I know that you don't have any inside information as to what they're planning, but how long do you think this will last before people get tired of it?
I think as long as you're drawing new guests to your park, can have a long shelf life. I don't think you're going to see this being something that somebody does every time they visit Cedar Point. If you're going there 4 or 5 times, you're not going to do it 4 or 5 times at $20 a pop. So I don't think, that the repeat visitor is going to keep this attraction going for years to come. So you're going to have to really rely on a lot of first-time visitors.
Yeah, well, the thing that comes to mind is it's more pricey than a normal claw machine. Not that much more pricey, but it is more pricey. But, shopping out of my own experience, like with Kings Island, they've had motion simulators. They've had VR things that are like all upcharges. They last like 2 seasons and then they've kind of like done their thing and they're gone. This is a permanent structure though. So I guess theoretically it could be converted into like a single-use fast lane booth or a drink stand or something like that pretty easily. But I'm curious as to if it's going to have the staying power to still be around 5 years from now.
Yeah, I would think the higher your season pass base is, the less likely is that it'll be around for years to come.
Yeah. I guess only time will tell. Moving right along, let's go to Universal City Walk. So, Universal Orlando has unveiled its Epic Universe Preview Center on City Walk, which offers a sophisticated glimpse into the Epic Universe park set to open in 2025. Central to the preview is an intricately detailed model of the entire park, providing an in-depth look at the innovative attractions and experiences that will define Universal's third gate. To enhance the visitor experience, the Epic Universe Preview Center encourages guests to utilize the Epic Universe Preview AR app. This innovative tool allows users to scan designated portions of the model marked by AR signs, bringing attractions and dining locations to life in their smart runs through augmented reality. They so one thing that's not mentioned in this blurb is they are selling merchandise. I've got a friend that works in City Walk, and he told me about some of the merchandise, and it looks, really, really cool. You got Dark Universe, like stuff that's like Dark Universe is something that I feel like a lot more people are excited about than they give credit to. But man, this is going to be such a cool park. I'm excited.
It is, it's got everybody talking about it, So as soon as it opens, it's going to be the place to be.
Yeah. Well, let's get the heck out of Orlando because it's hot this time of year. Where are we heading next?
We're going to head to Pennsylvania. The Thunderhawk roller coaster turns 100 this year at Dorney Park, and the park has scheduled an anniversary celebration. The South Whitehall Township Park will host the party June 29th. The all-day event, which is included with park admission, will feature a special ceremony, music, food, a pop-up history museum, special guest, photo opportunities, and more. Thunderhawk is a national landmark and an integral part of Dorney Park's history. Ryan, I really like what they're doing here, celebrating this ride turning 100. They've got a new coaster this year with Iron Menace. Sometimes when you get a major new attraction like that, you spend the whole year just focused on that and you forget about the other things in the park. I like that they've not done that, that they recognize the significance of this 100th anniversary, and they're making it a celebration for their guests, many of them who grew up riding Thunderhawk.
Do you think any of them wrote it in 1924? Like I could see that because I couldn't see that because that would be absurd, but like when Kings Island turned 50 and they found the family that got to open the park in 1972, it's like, where do you find these people? Like 50 years later, how do you find them? So somebody wrote.
Well, I was at Kings Island, so for me it was easy to find those people because I knew who they were. Just from growing up with Kings Island and hearing the stories of who the first park guests were. So for me, it was just finding out if they were still in the greater Cincinnati area. So you can find a lot of people that it won't be any problem for Dorney Park to find guests that have been riding this coaster for, some of them 50, 60 years.
But not in 1924. That would be
not 1924. Not that far back.
Getting somebody.
But no, there's still going to be people that are in their 70s or even 80s that are riding Thunderhawk, and they'll be able to get some of those longtime guests to come back and be part of the celebration.
Is it a weird thought for you? Because it definitely is for me that like all the history, like World War II, the Cuban Missile Crisis, Watergate, like Thunderhawk was there the whole time. That's the way I think about this sort of thing.
Yeah, and I had a chance to ride this coaster before, and it's a lot of fun. When I first rode it, it didn't have a name. It was just the coaster. So Thunderhawk came in later after Cedar Fair purchased Dorney Park.
Oh, was it their only roller coaster? So it was roller coaster at the time?
Yeah, it was just, that's how it was, I was known, just as the coaster.
There's only a couple names but we've discussed this. There's only a little bit of nomenclature for roller coasters that old. There's roller coaster, there's Big Dipper, there's Leap the Dips, and there's Scenic Railway. Choose one of your four.
Yeah, there used to be there was one called Giant Coaster one time at a park that I went to in New England, and it was just known as Giant Coaster.
Yeah. What isn't there one? Somebody put this in the comments, but there's one called, there was like the Blue Coaster. Does that ring a bell? Or the Red Coaster, or something like that? I think it has a name now. But
That doesn't ring a bell to me, but I just remember, riding Giant Coaster, and because the other one in the kids area was the kids coaster, and there's the Giant Coaster. So there's a
yeah.
lot of a lot of real thought that went into naming those rides.
What if they really sat around for hours and were like, "All right, giant coast, fine," because you talked to yourself about the difficulty. With Epic Universe had to rename that ride, and you said there's a lot. Sometimes people criticize roller coaster names or ride names, but it's very difficult to come up with something. Like, what if they came up with the perfect name, and then they're like, "Oh, wait, there's a park in Kansas that has. All right, just call it Giant Coaster, whatever."
I mean, nowadays, especially, it is incredibly hard to come up with names for rides, just because some school's going to have that name. Another amusement park might be using that name. Uh, Maybe there's some reference to that name that's trademarked or something that's part of a movie, whatever it may be. I mean, it is really hard. You can put 10 names down on a piece of paper, and you probably can't use 8 of them,
Then use one of the other two.
but they might not be any good.
Do you like how simple my logic is? Okay, let's move on before I say something else dumb. Okay, so Ken Berryhill, Cedar Point's director of safety, recently retired after a remarkable 50-year career in the amusement and theme park industry, which included 25 years dedicated to Cedar Point. Berryhill's journey in the industry began when he was 16 in an amusement park in Texas. There, he initially worked in general roles where he transitioned into security department due to his interest in law enforcement. In 1999, Berryhill joined Cedar Point, bringing his expertise and passion for safety to the renowned amusement park. 50 years. Congratulations. That's a long career.
Very long career, and one of the most respected people in the industry. I got to know Ken a little bit during the different stints that I was helping out at Cedar Point, particularly when I was there for parts of 3 months for gatekeeper. Just a great guy, and just wish him well and hope he enjoys his retirement.
Absolutely, yeah. 50 years. I mean, even 25 at Cedar Point's kind of impressive. All right, moving right along.
Well, for the 14th consecutive year, Dollywood's Splash Country is hosting Water Safety Day on Thursday, June 20th. This event promotes water safety awareness and fun for the Smoky Mountain area. It begins with the world's largest swimming lesson at 10 a.m. at the Mountain Waves Wave Pool, with registration starting at 9 a.m. that morning. Severe Aquatic Club instructors are going to provide a free 30-minute swim lesson. New this year, there's an inclusive swim lesson in the Cascades area for guests with varying abilities. Now, throughout the day, there will be water safety demonstrations for parents and adults featuring experts from community organizations. Participants in the swim lesson will receive commemorative medals and free admission to Splash Country. Other guests can join water education activities and win prizes. So it's, for that free admission, you want to register online or on site by 9:30 a.m. on June 20th.
Yeah, I mean, it wasn't until I was an adult that I realized how lucky I was to, like, when I was really little, I was involved in swim lessons and stuff. And sometimes I forget that there are people that honestly, like, if they fell in water, they're pretty sure they would drown. Not that they would necessarily, but they think they would. They're really afraid of water. So I like stuff like this because, for one, it's a good look for the park. Let's get that out of the way. But for two, they are really doing a good. Sometimes they have the veneer of good where you got the opportunity with the sick kids or whatever. This one, honestly, they got people in the area. They come in, especially like little kids. They get a swim lesson, and that swim lesson might, first of all, be what makes them not afraid of the water, and second of all, it may save their life.
Or someone else.
Or somebody else. Well, this is not really a rescue class, but yeah,
no,
right.
But once you learn to swim, I mean, you can help somebody else out. But I wish there was something like this. When I was, a young child, we had a pool in our backyard, and I would get in, but I, never really learned how to swim other than just being able to, keep my head above the water. I could, kick around in that a little bit, but I was never a good swimmer. So I really wish something like this had been available, when I was younger. And I really like what they're doing there with this.
It was incredibly dangerous for you to have a pool in your backyard and you didn't know how to swim.
Well, it was 3
Oh,
feet, but I mean, still, but I mean, you could walk around in that, but I mean, I just never, you know, could race across the pool or anything. I could walk around in it. I could, that dog paddle type thing to keep my head above the water, if it was over my head. But never became a good swimmer. I guess that's why, transitioned to riding roller coasters in the summer because I couldn't swim.
yeah, that's why you don't do water coasters, you do roller coasters.
That's right.
Okay, let's move on to the listener question. So the first one's from Brian W. from Washington, D.C. He asks, is supply issues with many rides being down true, or is it just saving in cost? King's Dominion has had rides down for a while other posts about other parks with rides down, some for upwards of a year. I've kind of wondered that myself. What's your take on that?
Well, especially when you're building a new attraction, there are supply chain issues. Since COVID, it's been tough to sometimes get the materials that you need to build a new attraction or to have it ready to go when you thought you would at the start of the season. I can look at Adventure Port last year at Kings Island. The two rides did not open with the park in April, and part of that was supply chain issues. So it is a real thing that's out there. So as far as some parks just claiming that, they want the rides to be open. I don't think that that's anything that they're just throwing that term out there to keep the ride closed. So I think it's a real thing across the board.
Okay, so generally speaking, yes, they say supply chain is probably supply chain.
Yeah, I mean it's ever since COVID. I mean, it has been tough sometimes to get what you need, and sometimes if it's an existing ride and you need a part, there's some parts that you do not keep on site. They're just too big, or it might be something that you never know when it's going to need to be replaced, but it might be something might go 30-40 years before something goes. You just don't have that kind of room to keep every single part for every single ride on property, and then you go to the manufacturer to try to order it or something, and it may take a little bit of time to get it.
Yeah, no, and one thing that comes to mind is like Who's Giant Frisbee. Remember when the gear thing needed to be replaced with that? It took 6 months because it wasn't like Hoos was like dragging their feet. They had to make it in a foundry and then ship it from Germany. So yeah, that takes a while. Okay, good question, Brian. Next one is from Suzanne V from Finneytown, Ohio, which is my dad's hometown. Said, Don, I've enjoyed the content on your blog and social media. You inspired my husband and I to visit Dollywood for the first time. We loved it and bought season passes. We are now planning a trip to Holiday World. Just thank you for opening our eyes to other parks besides Kings Island and Cedar Point. That's not a question, Suzanne, but Don, what do you have to say to Suzanne?
Well, I mean, first of all, I appreciate that you take the time to read the content that I publish, whether it's on my blog Theme Parks by Don or on my social media channel. So I really appreciate that, and I'm glad that you enjoyed your visit to Dollywood enough that you bought season passes. And I think if you're planning that trip to Holiday World, you're going to certainly love what that park has to offer too.
Yeah, we're really lucky. I mean, she's from Finneytown, so she's from the Cincinnati area. But within a 4-hour drive, look at what we have: Kings Island, Cedar Point, Indiana Beach, Kentucky Kingdom, Holiday World, Dollywood. Am I missing anything?
Dollywood's, just about 4 or 5 hours, depending on where you live in the greater Cincinnati area. You've got Kennywood too is within 5 hours.
Yeah, Kennywood's. I guess I'm a little bit closer where I'm in, a little bit further south, but for me, it's about 4 hours for all these things. You're on a different side of town, so it seems like Cedar Point's a little bit closer for you, but yeah, within 4 or 5 hours, there's so many just world-class parks, and what an opportunity for you to write about them too.
Well, exactly. That's one of the things that my wife and I talked about when I was, going to be done with Kings Island. Where do we want to stay in Cincinnati area, or did we want to maybe, move to Tennessee or potentially Orlando? But for what I was going to transition into, becoming a journalist for the industry through Theme Parks by Don, and what I'm doing on social media, and the parks that a lot of the people that I guess you'd say, are Facebook friends with or follow me on X. A lot of them are, their home parks are Kennywood, Kings Island, Cedar Point, Dollywood, Holiday World. So it was the perfect place to stay, just based on what I was going to be doing and the parks that I'd be writing the most about. So yeah, I mean, it's a great location. If you're a coaster fan, uh, Southwest Ohio area, Northern Kentucky, that's the perfect place to be. Or, Pennsylvania is also a great, place to be when you've got, all those parks, kind of close together with Knoebels and Kennywood and, Waldermere and Hershey Park. So those are the two best places. I think if you're not going to live in Orlando and be part of that, action down there, the next best place is where we are here in Ohio and Northern Kentucky for you, Ryan, or Pennsylvania would be the place to be.
Yeah, absolutely. So thanks for that, Suzanne. All right. We'll see you next week, everybody, with another exciting episode of the Attractions Group podcast and